Everyone, welcome to a late night show, at least I guess in America on that part. Very excited, going to get into this, not going to waste any time. No double intro today, very to little chat. If you got questions, put them in, no promises though. We got a lot to get to. This is Permabull, Tokenomics, and Giff, Pulsar, iBurn protocols deep dive. New paradigm, as I've been calling it. Been super excited about this. Finally got Giff and Kool-Aid on here to go through it. And yeah, I'm very, very excited to bring you all this content, to dig into prepping for this for a while. You will learn a lot, I'm pretty sure, in a lot of different directions. Talk about liquidity, talk about burning and minting and value and PulseChain and all that stuff. So without further ado, let's get them in here. Crypto Kool-Aid and Giffordware. How's it going, gents?
What's going on?
Going on? It's like coming home again. I'm so comfortable in this stream.
Homecoming. It's like 100% time, number 22, almost. Yeah. This is actually the first time I've had both of you on at the same time, I think.
There was one time during the ICOSA launch party, I had one of our mods, who I called the Banana Farmer, try to hunt down when it was me, Giff, and Sloth all met. And he found a video of you, me, and Giff. I know there was a Sloth there somewhere, so there's one more rogue video. But yeah, it's been a long time.
I forgot ICOSA launch party. That's true. I agree. That would be the one. Gents, it's been a while. I mean, I caught up with I was catching up with Giff a few weeks ago about because they hadn't been on the show for a while, about PulseChain, about launch, about Pulsar. We talked a little bit about it then too, and then I got to learn about Giff and some of the Permabull tokenomics. Started deep diving into that, and now I'm just like, man, this is something special that I think I want to talk about. I want to highlight. I want to show people, at least give them an idea of the value that's here and the value that it appears to be. Again, the jury's not out yet. Still, experimental, I guess, in a way, maybe tongue in cheek there too, but there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff being built, and I want to tear it all apart and put it back together so everyone can have at least the best chance, have a fair shot at understanding and see if they're interested. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. So let's just get into it, because I know we got about, probably want to go for about an hour and a half or so, and see if we can get it all in. Prepped a little bit. I've got a doc. I've got all the stuff. You guys know about it too. So I think we put together something that can really paint the picture of what these protocols are. So can we start off just with an overview, just to give people an idea? Because when you say Permabull tokenomics, when I talk about like, hey, this is something new, like what else is out there? Like what is, we got staking, yield, there's buy and burn with different protocols with PulseX and stuff, but what is out there currently? And then we'll kind of get into like the different principles and stuff, and introduce the protocol here as well.
Well, I think the daddy of the buy and burns is PulseX, right? Like I remember when the tokenomics were first kind of being released, about how the protocol was going to use essentially its volume to fund a buy and burn, right? And that was just a fascinating time to really dig into that. And it really birthed a lot of it really birthed the Permabull tokenomics in general. It was just the whole premise of what is really happening during a buy and burn. Like, I've said this multiple times, but we were talking about it for at least a month. Like, we need to come up with a term for this, because you essentially are having a buyer who buys and then never sells, right? So he's permanently bullish, right? And so that's how we came up with this idea. So the definition is really just, you take in a protocol fee that buys and burns the token that you just minted. So that's really all the Permabull tokenomics are. Hopefully that answers your question, but Kool-Aid, I know you got something you want to say.
Oh, I can say all sorts of stuff on that. I think if you look at what a Permabull is, with bindable code that can only do one thing, and that's benefit the system, you can call it a benevolent whale. You can call it a tip of the hat to a reverse OA, but it's actually not just taking the idea of what PulseX's buy and burn was, because it's using itself to do that. It's bringing in extra economic power and energy to reflexively push that design forward, and not just a small bit forward, but dramatically forward. And when you're pushing things dramatically forward, reflexively in a seesaw, it's going to go the other way in your favor based on design.
So again, I think for people first hearing it, they're probably like, okay, that sounds cool. I get like this. I mean, if you like buy and burn, if I like buy and burn, I'm really going to like this type of thing. But what makes it different? Like that's why I wanted to start with, like the different stuff out there. I mean, you have all kinds of different games, some healthy, some less healthy, some you got to get in early for, you got fair launch, you got all this stuff. What makes, Permabull, for example, in this, there's different parts of the protocol we'll get into, but what makes Permabull different than staking, than just looking for yield, than just minting a coin, different than meme coins? Like, what makes it different?
I think the first thing you want to look at before Giff gets a more simple explanation is start off with what is inflation, what is yield, and what are you getting out of it, out of the return? Because if you're looking at proof of time or a T-share, there's two components to it. There's the inflation part of the creation system of yield, but there's also time lock. And that time lock ladder is actually protecting you from yourself. And we'll dive back into that a little bit later, why holding a Permabull token is almost like the yield you would have gotten at staking, but it's much more focused onto number go up, which is really what people care about. But because people see more units in their wallet, they think they're getting something, even though theoretically it's inflating from somewhere else. Almost like pegging a stable coin to $1, but yet we complain that $1's inflating. You're stably pegging yourself to an inflatable asset versus holding an asset where it's going in the opposite direction programmatically.
Or another way to put it is like, how do you disincentivize somebody from selling something that they got for free, right? Or something that they just minted, whether it came for free or if it came at a cost, and whether or not you had to create the token or if it was just inflated for you.
Sure. And then take that one step further. If you bought the token or you created it itself, is a different model. You can trade Permabull tokens all you want. But if I'm bringing economic energy that I owned and I push this through that system, I'm forcing that system to, yes, create, not inflate, but I'm giving it my economic energy. And then I know that if I hold this token, 85% of that, or based on which system you're looking at, because we modulated just a little bit, but most of that economic energy is going into a reflexive system that's going to take it off the market and permanently delete it, not remove it and put to the debt address. So there's two different principles there.
Oh, we're definitely going to dig into that. I think that's really fascinating, the difference between the two. We're definitely going to dig into the mechanics. But why not just create a meme coin? Like, why is it putting value with something and having it in this loop and the system and the buy and burn? I've been trying to simplify it: double buy and burn, compound buy and burn, however you explain it. Like, why not just create a token and do anything else with it? Like, why is this special?
Well, to be honest with you, I've seen several founders, I want to say more than two, actually skirt around this idea without embracing it. It's like they didn't notice it, or they didn't want to believe that you could do this. I'm not really sure. I was more baffled than anything. I'm like this is very powerful. You can see it working in real time, both on the protocol fee side of injecting value and on the buy and burn side, right? So really what it came down to was, that's why all of this is an experiment, is we want to see how this is going to work in real time. And this is why the Giffordware token itself, or Giff, is not, it is a meme coin. It is a copy paste Open Zeppelin meme coin. And that was by design, because we wanted to be able to use the Permabull tokenomics on any token. There needs to be no token that's off limits. So we needed that cookie cutter to start with. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, let's take one question about that. Is a meme coin, is you're just saying use a deployer to have something with no metadata into it. But wasn't Bitcoin a meme coin back in the day, before there was a thing called a meme and a coin? But it was the economic power that you put into it to mine it as it got complex, to make mining pools, to link those nodes together, to actually push that price up, that you couldn't get it back again at that cycle, especially when you look at cycles. So if you're just using a deployer to do something that's cookie cutter, what's the difference between the two? It's all the other use cases that you're putting them together to make a protocol, right? A T-share is more complex than just a T-share. It's multiple different components coming together, from carrot, stick, time lock, and utility on how that's done to actually understand a concept of, oh my God, stake and yield, make a ladder. It's a simple way to put it. But there's a lot more when you're thinking about what's a meme coin or what's a vanilla wrapper from a deployer.
Yeah, I like just being able to prove it can work on any different token. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the Bitcoin aspect, I think it was, a little bit different back then because you have to put like energy in to mine the Bitcoins and stuff like that. But now, if you're somebody creates, another Bitcoin, you're like, oh, just, okay, the 100,000th one. Yeah, we got another coin that does something. Oh yeah, you got to put value. Why does anyone want to participate? Does it have the first mover advantage, all that stuff too. That's why I think it's so interesting to have new protocols where there's inherent value. We're going to dig into it. I kind of got some different themes around it I've been thinking about too, but I think it's a good time to get into the pillars. And these are things I really love, that there's these principles around it. I like that there's naturally there's no room for sacrifice here. There's no room for a sacrifice because you're minting the tokens. And I love the real DeFi aspect of it too. The whole thing about, community and liquidity pools, and even with Pulsar, where it's like, I feel like I've heard Giff say it like 5 times, like anyone can create a liquidity pool, anywhere else, and unstoppable liquidity pools. There you go. That sort of thing. So no leaky boats, creation, not inflation, Permabull. Can you guys kind of go through each one and just describe it for people so they understand the different of this, and like how they even, what they're supposed to.
I think my internet's spiking a little bit. So, or it could be.
It's max.
Okay. All right. Well, in game dev, we have these things called pillars. And when you're building a very, very complex game, you have to have something up there that's your cornerstone, that's your anchor point, that's your keystone that you need to reference. And so when we started all of this, we started looking at a couple different ones. And we first started with Giff's favorite is no leaky boat. And it's a principle that's fundamentally looking at all the fat and cutting it and actually sussing out the simulation on why you want to do something correctly in the right direction. We can expand on that one, but the no leaky boat applies to all the other paradigms. The other one is creation, not inflation, because we first have to talk about what we were talking about before, is why inflate to give yourself some other little fancy number that really doesn't make sense. Why not take that economic energy of proof of power, proof of programming, proof of pulse, which is what Giff Tech is based on, but also proof of Permabull that puts it in there. So the Permabull, like we talked about before, is going to be kind of like a recursive OA, but it only can do one thing: take the economic energy that it was used to create the asset, and then from there, delete the supply. So you can see how both of these pillars not just support, but compound on each other and move through that idiom. And then we came up with simulation, not speculation. A lot of people may or may not have had experience building other simulated systems or complex architecture or designs or things that have need you to pivot in real time. And so we wanted to release Giff completely under the water, not talk about it, not do anything with it. But we were talking about Pulsar. And Pulsar is very, very unique because it takes Giff Tech to bind two L1s together. But why would you start there? Why wouldn't you do it on your native chain just to suss out the simulation in real time? So those were kind of our core components to start. And as we move through, we're building more on those components and on those pillars because they always support themselves to build higher and higher architecture.
When I saw creation, not inflation, when I first came across the idea, when you guys were describing it, I was like, why doesn't everything have this? And that's why I want to ask you all too, like, why isn't, or will it become the default for a lot of new protocols that are even outside of these? Like, is it the answer to a lot of the issues that other projects and stuff are dealing with?
I mean, I think the reason why it doesn't happen or hasn't really been happening is really kind of comes down to greed. Like, it's one of those things where, and I've seen it happen with previous founders, where they want to bend and get the protocol to give out super high APRs, or they want to, give out extra inflation if you stake large amounts, or whatever the case may be. Like, they listen to the community, but they basically harm the protocol in order to appease the crowd. And that's the problem. And that's what was hard, even in our small groups, and Larry will attest to this. It was hard to convince everybody to go, no leaky ship, because it's like you're constantly, you have to fight everyone's will to go, full board on APRs and etc. Everything I just said. So to actually cut the fat and say, no, we got to build this with what's best for the protocol. Because if we build it with what's best for the protocol, then everybody has a better shot in the long run as a community.
That's exactly right. What's best for the user is actually what's best for the protocol at the end of the day, especially when it protects the protocol and reflexively, if you learn, hopefully at the end of this, why people that aren't treating this as what it is will eventually get left behind because it's programmed into the system. It's baked into the carrot and stick of what it does. So you can use it many, many, many different ways because of how we're putting these tooling together. But remember, with no leaky boat, what's best for the protocol is not about greed. It's about actually protecting the ideals that we're trying to create and also step away of what's been done before. Like copying something as an artist is giving the ultimate tip of the hat to it. However, you can only draw the same pony picture so many times for it doesn't bloody matter. Sometimes you need to step away and use a different medium, use a different ideal, and take what you learned and evolve with it by what you understood, not by what I copied, right? The best way to learn another language is to learn a different language than what you speak, right? That way you're actually learning so many things to translate it in your head. And so when you're actually moving through those dynamics, it's important to reference where you came from, but it's exciting to step outside of that. And that's why, again, it's an experiment. We didn't copy everything. Giff wrote everything from scratch. Now, he borrowed from a lot of ideals, but he also cut the fat on a lot of things that's been experienced before.
Yeah, when I'm looking at it too, it just seems like one of the most interesting ways to keep value in the system and complement other protocols so much. Honestly, I think I just realized too, when you burn pGiff, in a sense, you're burning Pulse too, right? Because Giff and Pulse, it takes Giff and Pulse to produce the pGiff. So you're at least burning part of them. I guess you're not burning Pulse specifically because it's used to buy and burn off the market. We'll get into that too. But it's kind of like maybe not burning Pulse directly, but it's definitely creating this incentive to pair it and put in value and maybe buy Pulse or whatever too. Maybe, yeah, touch on that for a minute.
It's not burning. Let's the force is it's propagating that economic energy in a direction. It's shooting that like an arrow in a vector with a purpose. Because when you actually do burn, yeah, you get candles, yeah, you get people coming in, yeah, you get people putting more Pulse into the supply, which theoretically, the more time you're doing these transactions, other things are happening between the blockchain, which is good for the system. So it's not necessarily about Pulse. It's better for PulseChain as a whole by applying these new practices to the circuit. But yes, because to take what your thought pattern was, when I talk about Titan X, I call it proof of ETH, just like Zen was proof of gas, T-shirt's proof of time, ETH is proof of programming, Bitcoin's proof of power. Gifford, at the end of the day, besides being the Permabull proof of, it's also proof of Pulse, because you're going to see its reflexiveness on the chart in PulseChain terms. What's really interesting in the simulation is you're going to watch how, in my mind, this is no expectations, all the rest of that, we're seeing the simulation in real time, is that when the price of Pulse goes up, we're going to see the USD value in pGiff and Giff go up. Whereas when Pulse is going down, we're going to see the value in Giff or Pulse to Giff be going up. And that's a really interesting thing that I'm just looking at now that I don't know if it was going to work yet. This is why we're experimenting simulations in real time as you would.
Wow. I mean, that's a great way to get into just Permabull in general. I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces of the principles of the protocols too. And Giff, did you have anything you guys want to share anything on screen as far as diagrams when we're talking about it? Maybe give people an idea of what to look for when we're talking about it.
I've got
you guys don't have something I can.
I've got a ton of monitors up, but if you want me to send them to you, if you're more controlled in your screen windows right now,
I can. Yeah, either way. I don't know if you guys have anything to share. If you or send it to me, I can throw it up too.
Yeah, I'll just toss it to you right now.
Okay. And just looking for chat. Will this live be posted channel? Yes, it is automatically posted. So hashtag replay gang Roger. If it is too late your time, totally understand. We will live this for you and go through all the important questions as usual. Anyways, if you guys want to check it out, permagiff.com. .win. I can just pull that up real quick too. There's people in the chat
You know
talking
what's really crazy about this from my perspective and point of view? Thank you to the Mo that came in and did that. How to interact with the blockchain to do something. I have not had to do that since Ether Delta back in the day, where I had to go to my my Ether wallet, and then go to Ether Delta, figure out the silly little contract stuff, because I haven't had needed to. I mean, MetaMask was just a great GUI to get in front of it, and I'm like, this is great. Don't have to do it again. But how much Giff and pGiff were burned by just people interacting with the contract without even a front end. And someone from the community came and made that. We didn't do it. I mean, we're a community-based ideal. We want to have open conversation in our community. We want you to come talk about many things, express things, and learn. And it's like the OG days of Hex when it was all quiet and it was fun, and we were trying to figure things out together. So it was really interesting to see how many people were interacting with the contract when that hasn't been a norm since 2017. Or unless you just want to do it, but most people don't want to do it.
Yep. Yeah, I really like, again, I watched a lot of the other streams and stuff. And when I hear Giff talking about, like, I don't want to be the one doing all the work. I think it should be a community thing. I want other people to build stuff. I want to either, help people or inspire them or otherwise, but it shouldn't just be me talking about all this stuff or Cooley talk about all this stuff. I think that's really a different way of doing it too, that it kind of reflects that true DeFi type of thing of like, hey, if you guys want this thing to succeed, again, like, you do the work, that kind of paradigm that we know from Richard and stuff too. So, by the way, I posted this one. I have this one pulled up. Is this, is there like a better one to go over? You want to go through this one, go through Permabull?
I mean, I think if you understand this one, you can get to the iBurn one later, but it depends on how deep we want to go, because if you understand one core mechanic of one slit of the system, it'll help you understand the other ones later. Like I was talking about keystones, cornerstones, and how those build the arch or the foundation of something that's lasting timeless, ages.
Well, let's introduce, so people are on the same page, because I know I want to get to Giff and PermaGiff, but I think this is probably a good time to just like introduce those. Giff kind of mentioned Giff is a meme coin earlier. But
hey, Max, can you pull up the one from your Telegram? It's going to be a higher quality on your text, because right now it looks a little fuzzy on mine, but I sent you the high quality ones over your TG.
Yeah, that is the wrong communication channel. I do not have access to that right now.
Oh, no worries.
Let's see.
I can send it over
How about
Twitter.
This?
No, it's the compression sense. Just in case we want to read it. I'll take over. If you let me share, I'll just do it.
Yeah, if you can share, if you or send me on Twitter, either way.
I'll send it on Twitter. 1 second. But yeah, keep going talking. I just want to make sure that they could read it better. Artist in me. Yeah,
while he's getting that, Giff, you want to introduce Giff? I always get mixed up now. Giff and pGiff, and just kind of give people a framing of what these gears and stuff are going to be talking
about. Sure. So, let's just go through the diagram. Obviously, we start at the beginning with the user. And the user has the option to send in Giff and pay a protocol fee in order to mint pGiff or PermaGiff. So the smart contract is taking in 2 tokens. It's taking in the Giff and the PLS, and then it will immediately mint you the pGiff. Now, this minting process does not have a limit, nor does it have a time frame on when it's available. It's all permanently immutable code. It's not going anywhere. It'll always be available. So the question is what does the protocol do with the 2 tokens that it receives? Well, for starters, the Giff it receives, 100% of it, all of it goes to the dead address. And you may ask, why the dead address? Well, the main reason it's going to the dead address is because the token is not actually burnable. You cannot delete it. And that is also an important testing point, because there's a lot of tokens that exist that are not burnable. If you don't hard code that during deployment or in the actual solidity of the code and make it burnable, then you just simply can't. And the best thing you can do is to go back to OG ways, which is sending them to various different types of burn addresses. I know a popular one on PulseChain is the 369 address. The dead address is a little bit more OG, and since PulseChain's a system state copy of Ethereum, it came over with the fork, so that worked out great. Also, a cool part is that when you go and look at the contract of the Giffordware token, or you look at the profile on the Block Explorer, when it shows total supply, it will always stay at 1 billion. So that way, everybody always knows there was a total of 1 billion ever minted, and you know, that will not change. Another cool factor is how easy it is to track the amount of burnt Giff, because you can also, and I don't know if you want to be pulling this up too. I could send you the links directly.
He's got it. He's got it right now in his messages. If not, I can pull him up hard lock, because it's a little fuzzy to read stuff.
It'll show you a cool fact that and you know, we just got a lot of activity on the chain, so if my numbers are a little off, it's just because of this. But the dead address has become the 4th largest holder of Giff. Right now there's 36.4 million burnt of the Giff, which equals about 3.48%. Or at the current value earlier, before the recent pump here, it was worth around 80K. So the possibility to burn this token has only been going on for 29 days since the PermaGiff protocol went live. So yep, there you go. So it ends in DEAD, the dead address. So that shows, oh yeah, see, it already popped up. Wow, look at that. This is gonna be fun to track. So I just a few hours ago it was at 3.48%. Now it's at 3.64%. So it's moving fast. And what's cool about tracking this is we were all, you know, well, I shouldn't say we, but GoPulse.com was tracking how much the PulseX is getting burnt. And right now it's at 4.12% and has been going for almost a year now. So we're already at, you know, this 3. What did it show? 6 something percent. So it's closing in fast. Yeah, 3.64%.
Hey, we're almost 3.69%, man. Somebody better screenshot and send it to me. Someone better do it.
And then the protocol turns off and never works again, right? That's the end.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, trapdoor.
Yeah.
No, this is gonna be fun to watch. I can't wait till it gets to be the top holder. So that's pretty sweet. I think that's a pretty sweet way to track all the burns.
By the way, everyone, that's not the right way to do it. Do not do that.
Well done.
That's not how that works.
I gave him a good bribe for that. I gave him a good bribe.
Sorry, Giff, go ahead.
No, you're good. So okay, so that covers that. So now jump back over to the wireframe there. There you go. Okay, so then so that's what happens to the Giff. So then the question is, what happens to the PLS the protocol receives? Well, for one, 10% goes to the Giff OA address, right? Enough said there. 90% of the PLS goes to the PermaGiff buy and burn smart contract. So this is the majority of the economic energy that comes in via Pulse. And what does it do there is it pulls up within this buy and burn address, and it is publicly callable. So anybody can call the function via. Right now, you'd actually have to write a script to run it, but we're working on that. So you're able to call it, and it will go on and it will buy whatever the limit is on the amount of PLS per burn that is currently set, and then it just needs to follow the frequency of what's currently set to. The process of which it does this is it actually interfaces with Pateus on the back end, which is incredibly fast. Like wow, like this is like the only way to really be using Pateus. It feels like to me these days is you know, it takes a couple of seconds. You're not really waiting very very long for the quotes to come back and that sort of thing. So it's really cool. And Pateus has been updating and upgrading quite a bit over this last 8 and 9 months that it's been live. And so it's got great things like flash pop protection and this and that. And also it spreads out its buys amongst all the pools, so it finds the best price. So that's pretty sweet that we tested out using a DEX aggregator built into our buy and burn. Because we want to maximize the effectiveness of that buy and burn. So then what does it happen once it buys that that PermaGiff, it actually deletes it. So it fully deletes it. So the PermaGiff token itself, we added the burnability to it, hard coded, so that it can actually be deleted and thus removed from total supply. So the stats on that. Oh,
so,
but
I mean, I think you're maybe leading into it, but like, why is that important? Explain to like why do that versus anything else? Like, why is that good for the protocol?
Okay, well, let me read the stats and then we'll go into that, just because it kind of feeds into that, right?
Yeah.
So when this contract went live, there was 0 pGiff pre-minted. So there 0 existed. Currently, and again, this probably did spiked up again. So if you can pull up the pGiff block explorer, if you got that handy.
And while he's doing that, someone just took a tasty arb from 60 pGiff down to 54, and
yep,
it's
tasty,
wild. It's so wild.
It was thirsty, right?
Oh, and stay thirsty, my friends. Stay arb thirsty.
So there you go, max total supply. So now there's 30 million, so a little bit higher than what I had recorded earlier. So there's 30 million pGiff. So the reason why we wanted to make it actually burnable, or the ability to delete itself, is to see what the how that kind of affects the market cap in particular, and how that kind of bounces around. So let's see here. So let's say that and see, these numbers are probably off. So it's probably around 7 million so far has been bought and burned. And the way you can figure this out is you simply just take the total amount of Giff that's been burnt, and because it's a 1-for-1 copy, or you get it 1-for-1 for pGiff when you go to do the burning, right? You know that the total amount burnt, the 36 million or 37 million, whatever it is now, you know that much pGiff was created. And then all you got to do is minus what the current supply of the 30 million you see there of pGiff, and that tells you how much was actually burnt. So the amount that was actually burnt should be around 7 million, which probably equals around 20% of its current supply. And this percentage is interesting because since the total supply can change based on how much is burned, and it also changes by how much is minted, it kind of has this self-regulating ability to regulate its own supply based on demand and market conditions. So this is another interesting experiment that we really wanted to test here. So, and again, this has only been live for 29 days now.
Hit on that again, because I don't think people understood the power of flat ratios. And because we've been toying around with this for a long, long time on different things that we've been thinking of. And because they're flat ratios, we started with Pulsar and how all the rest of that would work. And now looking at what we have now with Giff Tech and how those flat ratios can recursively, again, move also into iBurn when we get to that point. But just hold that in your head that you can automatically know, because we're hard coding at the decision time when we made Giff, when nobody knew about it. It was 1 pulse for 1 Giff. And then at that point, they are always the same for the same circulating supply, 1 billion Giff. And now this other reflexive system is just a simple flat ratio. Then when you start to put more compounding flat ratios on top of it, you're locking in, as Giff was saying, you elaborated it better than what I would say, but the supply protection and utility of the system. But it was what you were getting to right there.
Yeah, the self-regulation.
There you go. Yeah.
Of the supply. Yeah.
Take a quick peek at this chart. It's becoming hard to ignore today, especially just to get people, again, we're gonna circle back to and get back into the technicals, but let me just look at the chart just for a minute and explain what is going on. And by the way, if you guys remember just a few minutes ago, Kool-Aid said, or one of you said 1 pulse per Giff when it first launched. So I do want to point out, currently the pricing at 41, and that's new from last time I looked at the chart as well. And
yesterday.
I don't think it's because we're streaming. I don't want to go that far, but at the same time, it's like there's been liquidity movements and stuff today too. What does this chart? What does this chart say? Like what does it mean for the people looking? I had Access talking about it the other day as well. But what is the interesting takeaways from looking at the Giff chart?
Well, let me speculate a little bit, right, on this, because I don't, none of us really know for sure unless you're the one actually clicking the buy button. But when we launched Giffordware, there was a few people who basically saw the launch, heard about it, DM me, asked me about it, like, is this yours? That sort of thing. And we had a small community, like right from the get-go, right from the rip. And these people, they bought up a decent amount of the supply that was available for the Giffordware token. And some of them wanted to disperse more tokens because they had so much of it. So they were putting up one-sided liquidities, V3, that sort of thing, and essentially making fees and selling as the price chart was going up. And then, as you alluded or just mentioned, there's been a couple streams where either Axis or somebody from the Axis community had mentioned, like, hey, we like everything about this price chart, we like what you're doing. Our one kind of red flag or like eyesore when we're looking at this is there's so much sell side liquidity, right? And we'd like to see that not be there, because it basically just kind of shows that there's plenty of selling, but there's not a whole lot of like buy support, like, or bid support. So we shared that around the community, and it appears that some community members decided earlier today that they were gonna go ahead and let's do another experiment. Let's remove that. Let's have more buy side liquidity than we have sell side, which they've accomplished. And so I just think that's super cool. Like, our community, like, you really have two options in a community. If somebody starts taking digs or doesn't like the way something's set up, you can either be defensive and just like sit there and try to defend your current situation, or as a community you could decide to, hey, this is not a bad idea, let's make some adjustments, let's see how this goes. And it appears that that's what the Giff community decided to do. So I couldn't be more prouder of the community and them just kind of taking it for what it is and being like, hey, this is fixable, this is not a problem. I want to see the hardcore LP communities like our token and like what we're doing all the way around. We don't want any blemishes. And so I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. Like, we're very open and transparent with what we're trying to do, and everyone's allowed to place their LP where they want it. But just even seeing what's happened right there was a very interesting, and I use it all the time, especially in our private conversations, simulation. Feed me simulations, because I don't care if you don't like a founder. I don't care if you don't like something because you don't understand it. I can put my adult big boy hat on and not have any tokens, or even have tokens and they're horribly in the wrong direction, and look at something and be like, how would I handle that if it was my day job and I had to deal with this reflexively in a game engine or a gaming situation or something? I had to solve it and pivot in real time. And we're very encouraging of that across the board, both when we teach from the community and both when we try to explain and talk about it and encourage them to explore those kind of options and be part of what's going on right here.
So just for people listening to Tuesday, stream with Axis, talked about Giff. At the time, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, it had around 200K worth of Giff, and then had, I don't know, like 20K or so of a Pulse, wrap Pulse in there, somewhere in that ratio.
Mm-hmm.
And then today, magically, it has only about 4K worth of Giff, so around less than 2,000. I thought it was 2,000 earlier, actually I thought it was like 4,000 earlier. I think it's went down since then, even earlier today, and 26K worth of wrap Pulse. The two, just distinguish between the two, with the feedback you got and stuff too. I just really want to hit this home of like that feedback the community got. Again, this is a community-driven token. This community sets up liquidity pools, all that stuff. It's, a couple of days ago, Axis TA person looked at it. Hey, there's, the liquidity looks a little interesting there. Now it is completely different. So what is, again, I just want to bring out for people too, like, what is better, or what are the pros and cons? Not even better, like, what are the pros and cons of what it was a couple of days ago? And it was like that, I think, for a while, much more Giff than Pulse in there. versus now? Like, what's is it better? Is it supposed to, like, where is it gonna where could it grow to? Does it have a different kind of ceiling sort of deal?
I mean, yeah. Go ahead. This is your bag of pie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it kind of comes down to the buyer, like what the buyer's trying to do. So if there's a lot of sell side liquidity and you're a buyer and you really like what's going on and you're trying to obtain as much as possible, especially, I mean, we're 29 days old, so this is pretty new. So you would want a lot of sell side liquidity so you can buy up a bunch of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you mean buyer? There's 4.2K. That's all the Giff in this pool, at least. Is there, I guess there's Giff in other pools, or it's just like, what happens if the pool gets emptied out? Yeah.
That's one of the bigger ones. So this is, well, actually there might be more on V2.
I mean, the thing is, it's
got V2's got 9K.
So the first thing
3.7 million.
How hard is it to get Giff now versus it was super easy a couple days ago, and now much harder? What does that mean for the market?
I guess the one question for me, just to throw in there, because we had a great conversation with one of Axis guys, and he was like, you need to make it more exciting for traders to be able to exit. And this is going to be an interesting simulation on the other side, because I don't trade, honestly. I really don't. But I'm loving just watching what the community is doing in real time and just sitting and digesting all of this kind of stuff, because the community is always watching and listening. I mean, I'm in a Telegram group to the wee hours in the morning, and Crypto Elite and Mo and a bunch of other great people are holding down the line while we're working and building and doing the rest. But it's the community's doing this. It's not, definitely not me. And it's absolutely cool to watch this in real time, again, from almost an outside perspective, because again, LP is not my game. I mean, we can go through my story of how I'm cursed to do any of this kind of stuff, but like just watching this stuff in real time is really creative. And I think it's kind of setting the stage for other people to learn from this example, which is ideally at the end of the day what we want. We want to teach people and watch how we all learn together on PulseChain, right?
I mean, why are people buying Giff? What is the motivation to buy the token? Pair that with Pulse. Maybe a little bit of mechanics between that. Because anyone who, before, I know you guys got a lot of comments about, okay, low LP, not a lot to exit, all that stuff. And, we've had conversations around, okay, instead of market selling, market buying, this is a protocol, at least right now, the way the liquidity is set up, that you need to scale out with LP and strategic positions and all that stuff too. But I don't think we touched on this yet of like the mechanics. What is it when somebody's looking at this, this implementation of the protocol for Giff, and we'll talk about iBurn and Pulsar as well in a bit. But with Giff and being able to mint pGiff, how are people evaluating this? Like, what are they, when they take a look at this, what are the key points if they're like, okay, this is interesting?
Oh, let me jump on this, because this is something I was going to say earlier, and then you let me get away with not saying it. So let me say it again. So why delete the PermaGiff, right?
Yes.
So look at it this way. There was 1 billion pre-minted of Giff, 0 pre-minted of pGiff. The ratio is 1-to-1 when you mint the pGiff, right? Which means the max supply of pGiff is 1 billion. That's if all the Giff was minted into pGiff, right? Now, when you have the ability to delete the pGiff, now you're cutting off the snake at the tail, right? So now the total supply of both tokens combined is 1 billion, and it's deflationary. And then what? There's more things being built on top of it. I think that probably answers your question why people are speculating right now.
Mm-hmm. And this is just the one leg of a spoke of a wheel, right? Like the ideals, the pillars that we talked about in the beginning, that's the hub. Those are the ideals that Giff and I believe in to our core. We will die on that fence because we believe in them ourselves, not just as founders, not just as traders, not just as crypto people. Like, these are purest ideas on how we think crypto should change for the better. And then from there, we've built one spoke that's going on right there. And Giff just gave you a very good idiom that between the two, there can be only a limited supply deflationary on top of each other. And that's compounding, or seesaws, as I like to always say. It binds and shifts each other back together, load balancing principles.
And that's just the first level. There are, other things to be built that could further reduce supply or add buy pressure as well that we will get into. But yeah, just want to hit on this, and we'll go back to the technical side too, of like when people are evaluating Giff and pGiff. I mean, that explanation was amazing, by the way, as far as the speculation side, if nothing else. But what are they buying? Like, what is the system that they are participating in? Like, that's going to mean, like, do you think it's the most appealing to someone?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of everything kind of has their season in crypto. Like, everything kind of has their season, and we've kind of fallen away from custom code, like in doing bringing forth innovation to PulseChain, right? And I think part of the excitement with what we're doing is the innovation. At least I want to believe that, right? So if it's actually true or not, I don't know. But I want to believe that the things that got me super passionate in crypto are still worth something. And, I also want to blend our communities back together again. Mm-hmm. We got way too fragmented and too many people not talking to each other anymore. It's kind of wild. So, I want to build a protocol that can be used anywhere and that will get people talking again. And, come into our gift chat and see all the people in there and see all the people that used to talk that fragmented in their own communities are now back in the same room talking again. And it's fascinating. I love it.
Well, what's even crazier is that some of the people from the Pulsar chat haven't moved over to the gift chat. And they technically have the same primary people talking. It's understanding in between both of those reflective systems. And now I like it because it's nice and calm, because God knows I get spicy sometimes too. And, people go, I just don't like being rude. But I think bringing people together is a core component of what we're trying to do to bring tribalism and maximalism to the front end, and then from there bring innovation to the more important end of that system. I've always said that you can grab lightning once and be lucky, but to continue holding on to lightning and getting it again, you can't stay in the same spot. You have to move forward, and you have to move forward with intent.
It's an interesting comment from Crypto Elite. I want to hit this before we move on to, great anecdotes. If I don't acknowledge after you guys talk, it's just because I'm zoned in, but I'm also like pivoting too. But this is definitely, you're hitting on all cylinders, gentlemen, by far. Don't worry. I'm not ignoring. I'm acknowledging in my mind, but I'm also being like, oh my gosh, this comment's interesting too. So anyways, Crypto Elite, removing LP and pushing it higher sets higher floors, protecting the early guys, which is fascinating to see. Any commentary on that? Like, what was it? Maybe just one more comment around the LP and the things that have been happening.
I mean, the only thing I could add is like what you could see an ideal situation, and an ideal situation with how early or how new these two tokens are. If you have a situation where there's low sell side liquidity and the price pumps super early, like Giff did, and then some sell side liquidity comes in so they can be distributed to more people, but that causes the price chart to wane a little bit, right? It kind of goes sideways. But it's a distribution phase. Like, that's just normal in crypto. That's something that happens. And then after some time, you see that sell side alleviate, and then it's time for the price to move again. But every time you go to alleviate the sell side, you add to the bid side. You're essentially creating a floor for everybody who was in before during the accumulation phase. So I think that's what Crypto Elite's alluding to. So in an ideal world, you'll just see that be a continuous kind of cycle every few weeks, or maybe even less.
And one more thing here too, the ratios between Giff and pGiff. Can you talk about that for a minute? Like, why, what are they? Why are they set that way? Will they change? Have they, the ARB I'm trying to get a chance to talk about the ARB piece, because I think it's fascinating, a huge piece. Maybe that's a good lead into that too.
I mean, really, the ratios were set that way for a couple of reasons. One, the Giff price was closing in rapidly on 10 PLS per Giff at the time that we were writing these contracts. So we wanted it to be somewhere around equal value of each side going in to test. In addition to that, we wanted it to be a round number, like 10, so that it's very easy to calculate what the ceiling price would be. When it's at 10, it's really easy. You just, look at the wrapped PLS prices and just add 10 to the pGiff price. And if it's within that 10, then there's no ARB possible. If it's over that 10, 11, 12, up anything higher than that, then you know that there's an arbitrage waiting to happen. So that's kind of the main reason.
Is the arbitrage opportunity meant to give people a reason to buy, sell, mint tokens? Like, first of all, is that accurate? Second of all, is it inherent in it? Like, is that a feature or just like something that just came about, like an emergent property, if you will?
I mean, I don't think emergent properties actually are emergent. An emergent property can arise. It's when you refine it that it's no longer emergent. So the definition of how you use the tools together is, I think, vastly interesting. Go ahead, Giff.
Yeah, I mean, they do go hand in hand, though. Like, if you have a protocol that provides liquidity all the time, like the pGiff protocol does, at any time you can go there. As long as you have Giff, you can always get pGiff, right? So that in and of itself will always create a ceiling price because it creates the arbitrage. But the arbitrage is also important because it increases the buy and burn, right? It increases the fuel for the buy and burn. And it makes the whole system deflationary. So it's a win-win scenario. And also it makes the system kind of immune to bad actors. Mm-hmm. Like, it makes the system benefit from people trying to arbitrage to win a profit, right? Typically speaking, if arbitrage is happening in crypto, it's because somebody made a mistake and somebody else is profiting from it. But in this situation, even if somebody makes a mistake, the protocol is going to make itself whole because we want to make sure that we're thinking about the protocol first.
That's right. Every time that you create, not inflate, one is removed on the, let's call it the core component to fuel the forged on Giff Tech fire. And then from there, that creation brings the economic energy over to do it again on the other side. So you have the opportunity to get some economic value without technically hurting the price, as long as you know where the floor and the ceiling is. I mean, if you market sell the whole bloody thing and you got that giant slippage candle like that poor fella did a couple days ago or a week or whatever it was, that's definitely not the way to exit, nor is it using the system correctly. It's like drunk driving on a wrong way road. You're not using the thing correctly to benefit the user and the protocol itself. And it goes back to what's best for the protocol is best for the user. But when the protocol can protect itself from a bad actor, especially with the way that the distribution and liquidity pool and everything else as a fledgling token is handling itself, it's really fascinating to see without the additional components that are being planned.
And on the burning, I'm trying to figure this piece out too. That's why I wanted to talk about it. So when the Giff is burned, so Giff is burned, pGiff is bought and burned off the market. And I feel like I'm in the ballpark, but I'm not quite sure if this is the right way of looking. It's probably not. So that's why I'm like trying to like frame it so I can get a better answer. Effectively, the value pGiff is Giff, and the pGiff is replacing the burn Giff, or the pGiff that's replacing the burn gift with the value of PLS. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that probably doesn't make sense, but like I'm in the ballpark of like how to think about the value of these tokens just in the system.
Yeah, I mean, really the value just comes from the creation process. So you're talking about it, right? It's the same thing. So if you are creating a token and putting two values in, then you need to make sure that those two values that go in are not extracted in a way that pays somebody off, right? In the system, it's got to pay the protocol off, and the way it pays the protocol off is it buys itself and burns it. It creates that permabull mentality, no matter what the intentions of the arbitrager is. And Crypto Elite's got another great question or a great comment down at the bottom you should throw up there. Yeah. So this was awesome watching him kind of put this together in real time. First guy in the chat to do this.
Yeah, shout out to Crypto.
FYI, so big shout out. So yeah, if Giff dumps hard and pGiff just is staying the same, right? Like somebody just came in and dumped Giff hard, then it automatically creates an arbitrage because the ratio drops well without or outside of that 10 PLS range. So now all of a sudden the arbitrage is there for the quote unquote bad actor to come in and buy Giff back up, mint pGiff, and then sell that for more Giff. So you can then mint more pGiff, right? And run that cycle. So essentially what you're doing is you're pumping the price back up again.
Right.
Without needing anybody around to protect the price, any whale to protect the price. The system is built to protect itself.
It's like a fully incentivized system to participate in that is just, I mean, if it's fully going, it's just buying and burning tokens like all the time. Like it's just meant to just keep like going as long as people participate.
Remember,
always bullish.
Always bullish. Right. Well, remember, system design is one system, right? One flow graph, if you will, one connection of nodes. Systemic design is where you're taking multiple systems and smashing them together that they have to concurrently react to each other in real time, regardless of what's happening. And this is a beautiful systemic system. But because we understand systemic design, architecture, utility, throughput, and why it's actually happening, because we hard built it. It wasn't forked deliberately. It was influenced by our study. Now we're understanding how do we keep this leverage system to begin with? Because if we're going to say arbitrage, that's buying and selling. What about the actor that just takes pGiff and Giff and just puts it into a V2 pool for people to play with and earn fees off? That's a completely different system rather than you pressing the red big button. Because wherever you are on the pGiff or Giff side of equal liquidity, it's a very interesting scenario for you to be on.
I can't think, and just looking at the protocol, I'm not able to see, and maybe it's part of the no leaky boats piece or some one area too, a way that it's other than people not participating, that like what would make it.
I mean, yeah, I think that's a funny question to ask, because if you don't participate in any blockchain at all, it can't react. So by having that, it's not blinders on, but like everyone kind of needs to focus on what's actually happening when you do with things. You can say nothing if it's a dead token, nothing happens. Well, if nobody interacts with the blockchain, nothing happens either, right? Like you have to understand that even if a few people do it, the system recursively will move within itself based on the amount of economic energy or use case that you're doing. The more people that use something, the more the reactivity happens in a systemic design system.
Yeah, I was trying to make the point there of like, I don't see where, different protocols and stuff, you have ways where, okay, even if people participate, they can be extracting value or like not be good actors to the system. And a lot of stuff, I just feel like a lot of that, I mean, all of it from what I can see so far has been addressed. Like there's no, as long as people are participating, which again, that is the energy in any system that's working. Where's the dumping? Where's the dumping that's going to happen? Here's bad actors?
Here's the important thing to think about, Max, is that it's not about creating a perfect system. Like it's about the continual build and experimentation. Like we didn't set out to just build this system and then say, hey, we're done, guys. Like all is good.
Is that a humble brag? Perfect system?
No, well, the thing is, it's not a perfect system. There's really no such thing, but we're gonna push the limits and find out how close can we get, and at what point is there just nothing else we can try out. And what's cool about building with protocol first principles is that you never paint yourself in a corner. You're always creating more space to paint, so there's always more canvas. And that's the cool part. That's the fun part, because and you'll see more canvas on the iBurn when we start talking about that. So I'll save that for later.
Well, let's put one more note into there just to try to get people's terminology correct. When people say no admin keys, you're missing the point because you're just trying to take a concept that you don't fully understand where admin keys are important or not to glom the entire thing. If you bought a complex piece of hardware, would you ever not wanted to get a firmware upgrade or have any kind of use case into a system? And so upgrades are important in everything that you do, from your computer to how you replace parts in your car. If you built something that was only a one and done, you probably should never touch the damn thing because you're never going to be able to work it, replace it, or use it to its full potential. When you build something that's modularly able to pivot, have canvas, and have use case, now you're kind of thinking within a different paradigm on how these actual things work besides magic internet funny money.
And I want to keep people grounded because I know I'm trying to make this as technical as possible for good reason, but also the people in there who are just like, okay, I really want to understand this, but can we give them some grounding of like, can you all compare it against like other types of tokenomics, maybe PulseX with the buy and burn and stuff too. Just what is the permabull aspect of this versus other ones that maybe people are familiar with, and maybe some commentary around that, just to give people an idea of like, okay, why not only why this is different, but why there's these advantages that we've already, that we talked about.
I mean, the first thing is if you're starting with Permabull, you're starting at the wrong end. You want to be with creation, not inflation. Because if you have extreme inflation onto your system, then your Permabull doesn't strike as accurately to the system because you're already suffering from an externality. So there's only 1 billion Giff created, 0 pGiff created. At that point, now Permabull and creation and inflation can work in side by side, in tandem. So you have to kind of give each rung of the mechanics its own ideals, or at least understanding. Because Permabull itself, if you have extreme inflation, you have to have extreme economic energy going into it to manage it. If you start with no inflation, now the economic energy going in reflexively has even more power to do what it does. And at that point, it can strike even harder and faster.
Just want to buy PulseX Pro. I just want to buy, this other token. The other thing that I guess I'm trying to paint the picture too for people who, again, I love the core coins, but I also, support projects I think are good for PulseChain. Otherwise, I like this obviously. And just, I think a lot of people, when they come across this, if we're not going to just dismiss it as, well, you'll buy later type of thing. If we're actually going to try to be like, okay, here is, and again, maybe we've already talked about the technicals, and maybe many people understand that portion, can put it together and be like, okay, this is way different than this, and this. But I've heard you guys talk about, Titanx before, talk about Zen before, talk about even some of the hex comparisons and stuff too. We mentioned the compound buy and burn earlier and stuff. What is that grounding for people? Why is this? I don't want this to be this project where everyone's just like, oh, well, that sounds really cool and technical, but I don't know, like, why would I, why would I put my economic energy there? Not even the sales pitch, but just, again, just some commentary around the differences between what people are already super familiar with.
Sure. Well, let's ask this economic energy. Did your sacrifice tokens economic energy to create PulseX actually come in to create PulseX, or are they sitting outside somewhere else in who knows where? The tokens just have here. So PulseX is buy and burn is on top of itself without having a measured use of that economic energy that came from a different chain. Now, Pulsar is very different. That's why I think Pulsar should be talked about after we talk about iBurn, because iBurn and Gifford Tech together really brings home both the economic value pre-chain that comes through the bridge to go to that lens versus doing something super aggressive with the tech. But since you brought up PulseX, the economic energy used for the sacrifice technically isn't doing anything to deflation, to its deflation system. Using PulseX is what actually deflates the token, right? So it's a very different perspective on how buy and burn is used. With Titanx, I mean, we can dig into it. it's essentially it mirrored a lot of things from the Zen community. Remember, Zen borrowed some stuff from the Hex community. And in fact, I'll just note it here to be fast. If we never forked PulseChain and forked ETH to make PulseChain, and we had the exorbitant gas costs on Hex, to unstake Hex would have been proof of gas. That gas fee would have been huge to unstake your eHex or Hex at that time. And that would have been the fee for you to actually not bleed out. And that would have gone flexibly back to the staking class if you didn't have the economic energy to do that. So TitanX had an interesting use case of the Zen inflation model and actually usable mechanics with build on TitanX kind of reward-based systems. Don't have to get into the weeds. That inspired us to take this simulation now, deconstruct all the components, understand them completely, and rebuild them into a different picture. So that inherently itself is its first symbolism to that. Or if you want to go, let's just say you like green number go up, but you understand why staking is bad. Well, are you talking about the staking from the inflation side? So you get more of a token, or you get more of an incentive token, or more of something else, but yet that energy is being dispersed. With this, is being correlated into one core component that can then have others being built on it, kind of like we saw the inspiration from build on TitanX or any token that encourages builders in general. It was just Titan gave us an interesting thing that, we can do something with this. And then we went to start spitballing ideas. How would we deconstruct these idioms, these ideals, these cores, and then bring them back into something that worked with our pillars that we wanted to, test out in real time?
I like pillars. I do appreciate so much that, and going back to what Giff said earlier too, and clearly you've just been providing like super, super concise details on some of this stuff. Sticking to pillars and sticking to, again, not painting yourself in the corner, as Giff mentioned too. I think that, I don't know. I feel like that's just one of the things. There's so many things that makes these protocols different, but that is one of the key things where I'm like, man, it is it's hard to, again, knock on wood. It feels like it helps avoid, later down the road, hopefully everything's successful, all that stuff. And you're like, oh, wow, now this thing's getting eaten up by this one thing that wasn't planned for, or there's this, it's like this airtight thing of like, wow, you literally just want to put value into the system. You're totally incentivized for this thing to be successful. And I think it's really unique. And I hope people are seeing, I think there's a few people who see what I see in it too, but quite a few people, I don't know. I think they're going to overlook it for a while until it like, oh, wow, that is pretty cool. That kind of thing. But I think it's a good segue too to get into iBurn. And so, it sounds like Kool-Aid thinks iBurn and then Pulsar. That's a good step through too. It sounds like. So sure. If Giff agrees, we can introduce iBurn and why you're going to pump our ICOSA backs.
That's right. That's the idea. All right. So let's walk through just a couple of the differences here. So we'll start with usual process where somebody comes to the mint page and they have to turn in 2 tokens in order to create iBurn. Now, the slight difference here, which is one of the more interesting experiments that we will talk about, is the option of a user to use either the ICOSA that's native on PulseChain or the eICOSA or the ICOSA from Ethereum, which is just a wrap token, right? A representation of the token that's locked in the bridge on the Ethereum side. So you're able to choose either one along with the PLS protocol fee. So the way it's set right now, and I don't foresee this changing, it's 1,500 PLS per ICOSA. And if you look at the price chart of ICOSA in terms of wrapped PLS, you will see that the native token is around 1,300 currently, 1,300 PLS per ICOSA, but it was at 1,500 not that long ago. It's not far from it. And the wrapped version is currently at 758. So if you're looking at, okay, what is this going to do to these two tokens, and why would we offer, you know, both these tokens to be available in the first place? Well, the reason is twofold. One, we have yet to see, you know, other than like actual stable coins, we have yet to see two tokens actually pegged together in price on PulseChain. At least I'm not aware of any. Are you aware of any, Max? Where the copy version is the same price on both chains?
I mean, I think what the common answer is, Hex is the closest thing that got there, right?
Right. It got close there, right? Or it kind of went through.
Right. Actually, I think it did go over to the other side for a second and come back, but no, other than that.
So this is a method, since this minting process is unlimited and will go on forever. This might actually have a really good chance of pegging these prices together. So that's one experiment. We want to see if it's actually possible to incentivize the marketplace to peg these prices together. The second reason is if we can get the ICOSA from Ethereum to pump, that we might actually be able to start kickstarting the Hedron ICOSA system, which, if we talk about just for a second, Hedron ICOSA, and where the first kind of arbitrage ceiling existed that I'm aware of, is when, you know, Alex from Hedron ICOSA launched ICOSA, which is a protocol that allows you to turn in a HSI or a hex wrap stake, and immediately receive ICOSA that's minted out of thin air for you, right, for turning in for the protocol. And to maximize the amount of ICOSA you get for your hex stake, you want to do a Quattro Cinco, because the longer you stake it, the more T shares you get, or B shares in those terms. And also there's a nice little 10% bonus, right? If it's a Quattro Cinco stake. So essentially what it does is every time ICOSA runs, you know, hard, because people want to speculate on the price, and it exceeds that, hex ICOSA ratio, or that ceiling, then it incentivizes arbitragers to come in, buy hex, stake a Quattro Cinco, sell it to the protocol for ICOSA, and the ICOSA they received is worth more than the value of hex that they had to put in. So that is a nice little feature that essentially takes hex off the open market and stakes it out 5,555 days, which is net positive for the hex ecosystem, right? So that's the other reason I wanted to use that option of picking either one of the ICOSAs. All right, so let's follow down the train. Let's get through this so we could so Larry can add some more commentary and we can get some more questions asked. Okay, so now the ICOSA. What do we do with the ICOSA? Well, same thing with as what we did with Giff. So whether it's local, and I do realize that the ICOSA that is native could be deleted, right? We could actually burn that, but I kind of chose against it. I don't see the reason to do it, right? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And if there's not a good reason to do it, then just keep going with what's working, what's best for the protocol. So no matter which one comes in, 100% of that goes to the debt address. Okay, so now we're going to be attempting to make ICOSA deflationary, both of them, because as we know, the reason why the staking on the ICOSA platform, whether you're staking ICOSA or whether you're staking Hedron, the reason why there's no more yield over there really is because the bootstrap that was originally laid down at the launch, which is where a bunch of Hedron was burned and there was ICOSA sent out for yield, and it's all spread out over 360 days. And it was literally called a bootstrap for a reason, right? It's just to get things started, and there should be no expectation of any more coming. So that's what made the APR so high. So now that that's done, and there's not really any more yield, and the only yield that could really come out is if you get the auctions going again, right? Mm-hmm. Then that means that the majority of the ICOSA that will ever come into existence is pretty much already there. So now if we can kickstart some sort of burning protocol, we might have a really good chance of making both of these tokens deflationary, which is just good. I mean, it's bullish. It's bullish for price performance. It's bullish for speculation. It's bullish for everything. So that's awesome. Okay, so that aside, now we've got PLS. We got PLS coming in. What are we going to do with it this time? Well, this time, we're going to take 15%, so a little larger chunk than what we took away last time. But that 15%, we're going to try a new experiment where we're taking one protocol and we're feeding some of its, let's call it creation cost, and we're going to feed it into the Permabull buy and burn. So that's going to be interesting. What happens when you have a buy and burn that's being funded from two different protocols, right? Let's see. Let's test it out. Let's see what's going to happen there, especially when you got two tokens that are wildly different in price, and thus there's a big difference in the amount of PLS that the protocol might bring in. So that's very interesting. The other side is, okay, now we got 85% of the PLS, and we're just going to run through the same system. We're going to use that 85%, a publicly callable function where we will use that PLS to buy and burn iBurn. And we're going to use the same process of running it through the Potatus interface. And yeah, there you go. There's the differences.
Wow. Quick question from Crypto Elite. Can we use eICOSA on PLS as well, or how will that work on the front end when minting iBurn?
Okay, so all this protocol will exist only on PulseChain, not on Ethereum. So if you've seen our front end for PermaGiff, I basically just built a forked version of it. The only key difference is where you would go type in the GIF, or the amount of GIF you want to send in. It'll say send iCOSA there, and then there will be a little drop down box right where the symbol is, the icon for the token, and it'll allow you to select which version of iCOSA are you sending in. And when you select that version, then the wallet will auto detect how much you got in your balance, so that it will confirm that you have enough. And then it'll do the same thing. It'll calculate the protocol fee, and you just go ahead and mint it.
And again, just for people watching, the protocols we're talking about, one is live currently. So you got GIF, pGiff. I mean, so the pGiff permagiff.win is live. You can take GIF, take PLS, mint pGiff here. I've talked about it on the stream before too. Protocol fee 10 to 1, GIF 1, 10 PLS to mint each pGiff. But for iBurn, not live yet. And we'll get into Pulsar in just a minute, but when iBurn, Dev?
Well,
iBurn will be launching next Friday.
What? May 10th. That's next Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Code's pretty much done. Front end's pretty much done. Just wrapping up loose ends, getting things ready to deploy. Not a problem.
Kool-Aid almost shut it down. He's like, well, you shut up. Don't ask this question.
Well, I wanted to lead it out a little bit more, but I think there's going to be a lot more in-depth conversations and people can chomp down on that, because this is just explaining two different systems of design. We haven't talked about the flywheels yet, on what happened on everything else that we discussed earlier, on what that does. Giff touched on it. They're wildly different in price, but their price is reflexive to what their core price in Pulse is. Now, if you think about how that flywheel affects the PermaGiff side, it's 22x the amount of Pulse going in to feed the Permabull, because to create one GIF, to create one PermaGiff, it's 10 Pulse. With this one, what's the number, GIF? 230 something around?
Sorry, what was that again? I was checking the chat. Sorry.
No worries. It was like 22.5 more whenever you create one iCOSA into one iBurn to then feed the ceiling of the PermaGiff. So then when you're asking about that ratio, someone in even our chat was being like, oh, the slippage and all the rest of that, and it's not moving that far. It's like, well, you have to set the stage with systems to allow them to anchor and bind into each other organically. So someone that has a large bag of iCOSA that wants to put their iCOSA to work, and they have some GIF, burn some ICOSA for some iBurn. Now, remember, first, we're not even talking about the ARB opportunity between you pushing down iBurn to get Pulse to then push something in. But let's just focus on the left side of what happens with that. You've now taken all of that economic pulse. It's only 15%, but it's 22x more than when you create Giff to PermaGiff. So that allows the PermaGiff ARB to push up, which is the core tech of Forged by Gifford Tech that we're now putting onto another economic platform. And we're putting their deflationary mechanisms and reflexive economic methods onto their tokens. Sorry, I'm being attacked by a cat. Then that flywheel goes back up that people can ARB. That new ceiling that's being created on the Giff pGiff side to rebuy back their Giff. So that way, when they minted pGiff to Giff, they now have the same amount of Giff that they had. They've done extracted value. They've transmuted value from one into the other. That they can take that extra pulse that they just got and then make more iBurn, which then reflexively goes back and pushes the price on the other side for the PermaGiff. But then there's one more flywheel there. How is baby ICOSAs created? Well, if you happen to have a bag of Hex sitting around that's not working for you and you don't have it staked, remember, staking needs to be broken down again to yield and protection from yourself by locking it into a particular ladder, timeline, all the rest of that. If you could have staked your Bitcoin and never, or laddered out your Bitcoin and never earned yield, those people in the beginning would be very, very happy because it protected them from its senses. That just has a paradigm of design. Sorry, my cats are going crazy again. Then from that method, how many different flywheels do you have just between two protocols at the exact same time to then give ARB opportunity, liquidity pool fees, and other things that are just simple ways to people to use the system without being a bad actor? Nothing I described in all those opportunities has zero bad actor principles in them. And both of those protocols are still protected by the same pillars that we created when we started the first simulation and the first experiment of Giff to pGiff.
I'm going to need you to stop making protocols that burn pGiff. That's just, I've had enough. This is too bullish. Too bullish.
The Permabull doesn't lie and the Permabull doesn't sleep.
No, great explanation, Larry. Yavine says, any word from Alex on how this might help or hinder his project?
Oh man, how much do I want to talk about on this? Let's just say that him and I talked about a protocol like this a while back, and he's aware that I've been building, and that's about it.
But I mean, honestly, the fun part is that we wanted to use the term iBurn as a tip of the hat to Alex and the icosahedron community, because I mean, realistically, nobody understood what wrapped T-shares or the power of a wrapped asset as an NFT came before Alex did it. And so instead of calling it p-icosa or something like that, we wanted to really tip of the hat and show that not just that community, but builders that are actually innovating on how we can all work together within the same substrate, regardless if we even talk to each other or they even know. It's about good actors working with good actors building on it, because that's why, as Giff said before, the bootstrapped liquidity from the initial launch of Hedron Icosa or icosahedron was you have to use the system to work it. Well, if you get another system starting to work in tandem with it, you're building, again, a reflective perpetual motion machine, right? And that's exactly what you want in real systemic design.
Interesting. I got I'm going to 10 minutes. I'm going to break it. I said 85 minutes. Now we're going 95 minutes. However,
I said 3 hours. 3 hours.
I could too, but it's I got stuff to do. I can't just hang out and talk to all you guys all night. There's got to be a hot tub or something.
Hey, don't challenge me with a good time.
Maybe one day. But I did want to talk about, again, a lot of my people, or PulseChain people too. I'm Tokenomics people are, welcome to, this is like a huge, I think there's like a win-win for both protocols here with PulseChain or with with Pulsar. So many protocols going But I wanted to focus in too, just for people who are really into PulseChain. Again, this most people probably watching right now too, and talk about Pulsar. Just a super brief. You don't touch on a lot of things. Just like super brief. What is it? It hasn't launched yet. Just like iBurn hasn't launched yet. Hopefully soon. Maybe we'll talk about that in a minute too. But the most interesting part for me on PulseChain, why I think it's so cool to see this, is the liquidity portion, the unstoppable liquidity pools, and the value that's bringing to PulseChain. That's what intrigued me about Pulsar. So yeah, maybe just super brief introduction, and then talk about the advantages for PulseChain.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, Pulsar pretty much introduced a lot of our tokenomics. Like, this was our first kind of walking down the road. I don't even know, Kool-Aid, how many nights we were up late running the hamster wheel on this stuff. But the biggest thing for Pulsar is we wanted to see, the Permabull tokenomics handle a large amount of inflation, which is what we're seeing on the Titan X protocol. And, we wanted to see also, how can we drive liquidity from one chain to another? This is the ultimate really experiment is, everybody wants, when you have a new chain, everybody wants economic energy bridged in, because that's what gives the chain value, right? It's got to come from other sources. So the experiment is how do we get that to happen without actually encouraging people to do it? Like, what if we're just incentivizing people to do it without them really needing to sign off on it? Like, they're at our protocol page and they want to mint Pulsar. That's why they're there. Maybe they're an Ethereum maxi and they will never go to PulseChain. Like, there's plenty of those dudes out there. There are plenty. How do we get their economic energy and get it moved over there anyways? Well, this is one of those methods. And the way it works essentially is it's very similar to how the Giff protocol works. Somebody will come to our protocol page and they will insert Titan X along with Ethereum, right, in order to create Pulsar. Now, what do we do with those two tokens? Well, half of the Titan X that we receive gets burnt as a gesture of goodwill, or a tip of the hat to the community and to show that we're good shepherds, right? And the other half we're bridging to PulseChain. And then you say, okay, well, what are we going to pair it with? Well, we're going to make the protocol allow itself to mint. Essentially, the way the math really comes down to, it's minting half of whatever the user mints, so that when it pairs up and goes across the bridge, they're basically in the same ratio. And then once it gets to PulseChain, it automatically deposits. It creates a liquidity pool. Actually, it's hard coded into the contract, the Pulsar pathway contract to be specific. It's hard coded in to create a PulseX V2 liquidity pool and then deposit into there. What forces the deposit? We'll have a publicly callable button that a user could just pay the little bit of gas, because gas is so cheap on PulseChain, right? That, a good steward could just hit that button every once in a while when they want to see more liquidity, and boom, more liquidity is on the market between Titan X and Pulsar. And then anybody who wants to come in and do LPs, right, that are all about the fees, collecting fees, that sort of thing, it's going to be wide open for anybody to create a pool of wrap PLS to either one of those two tokens, that sort of thing. So back on the Ethereum side, we're going to be running the Permabull tokenomics with the buy and burn at Pulsar. Essentially the same way. 90% goes to the buy and burn. The other 10% is going to OA wallets.
Yeah, I think the liquidity here is super interesting. And again, have you all seen any other protocol do this before for another chain?
Nope, absolutely not. And not with it. Just bridging something is interesting, but we're handling so many different dynamics at the same time while bridging and creating people that want to use, build, or have Titan X to have the ability to get it cheaply, to trade it cheaply. Because remember, Titan X is proof of ETH, right? Proof of ETH divided by time and its deflationary mechanisms. So regardless of what you like or not about founders, ideals, where things came from, look at the core of the root of the system that you're looking at. And so it's a big win across the board for the Titan X people to be on PulseChain. And I happen to know, because I talked to all the other Titan X founders, that a lot of them are going to be coming over. I assure you they will be. I talk to them all the time. Blaze is another one that we've talked to a lot, and they're great people over there. In fact, most of them are helping us in our chats. And that's the coolest thing, is when you're seeing founders of other tokens come together with a not a me, but a we mentality, DeFi for all. And that's like one of the other big shepherds that we promote as one of our pillars, because we can generate and build this economic energy moving into Pulse, being reflexive to ETH gas costs, to have something from Ethereum. And that's an interesting thought parity, because what happens with parity on eIcosa and native Icosa? What happens with forked PRCs? What happens with other type of things that we are running in real time to consider how that would happen? So when people are trying to understand why is it not out yet, we're doing a couple things in stages to actually see how the food is cooked together, rather than throw a whole bunch of things out there and throw your hands up, be like, sorry guys, didn't work out, or big red candles, or all the rest of those things. That if you want to build something, you do it organically and reflexively to the system that you're trying to do it. So yeah, nothing's been done like this before, and it's pretty wild in real time.
And I've heard you guys talk about before the infrastructure layer, all these new protocols. I mean, they're, pGiff's out there, iBurn coming in a week. I guess I'll ask at this point, when Pulsar?
Pulsar, we do not have a launch date for you yet on that one. Sorry, you don't get 2 launch dates on one stream.
I thought I had a double. I wanted a compound launch date thing. Give me a compound.
Oh, you're getting better with the compound turn. I like it.
Well, I have to say it when you're around. I know you'll be like,
Well, it's a double buy and burn is, it's like a double bottom. Like, that's just a thing, right? When things compound. Well, I know they do, but like, it's a signal, right? It doesn't mean that it's doing 2 different things at the same time. And that's what we're trying to do, is put multi-threaded systems together at once.
Good. I know you're glad I'm here to translate for people who don't know what you just said in that one, and not just what you said, but just, again, you guys. I love, that's why I love having the conversations like this, because being from the outside looking in and having conversations with a lot of different founders and people building and stuff, some of the stuff, it takes me a while to understand. Some of it I don't clearly understand every single piece, especially what you guys do. But the translation to everyone watching it, I think it's just so important, because there's a lot of people who want to get this. A lot of people, they're looking for interesting protocols. Plenty of people like meme coins, plenty of people just like, forks and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff does, can bring value here and there. Some does, some doesn't. But having a new protocol and being able to, again, synthesize it down, where it's like, okay, what is the way to get, it's almost like the carrot, get them in, let them understand it, let them decide if they want to participate. If they never walk through the door, I mean, that's just, I want people to buy early. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's what I optimize for. I want people to, I want to, I talk about this when I'm streaming. I think I have good information to share. That's why I like streaming. That's why I like having these conversations. I don't want people to buy late. I want them to buy as early as possible, if I can help them do that. Again, not in a financial advice type of way, but just like, if I can bring them that good information earlier rather than later, that's what I'm like, that's why I'm always trying to pull you guys for information. What is the simplest way to say this? What is the simplest way to think about this? That's why I'm always pulling for it, because I want people to get in early. I want them, to have this fair shot at whatever they want to do, getting rich, getting richer, getting wealthy, getting wealthier, all that stuff. So I love talking to you guys about this stuff. And I want to have, can I get a commitment? We will have another conversation, because my gosh, when Giff said he didn't know if we were going to cover all this before we started, I was very confident that we would get close. And I mean, I definitely think we hit a lot of the key parts, but I would love to have you guys on again.
I don't even think we got through half of your doc.
I'm skipping around. I'm being generous. But
all right.
I feel like we got through a lot. But the last thing I'll say too, by the way, is that I guess you guys will come back on?
Of course.
Otherwise, I'm in the stream right now. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. So just kidding. How can people participate in, so the protocol that's live, again, for everyone watching, got Pulsar coming. We got iBurn coming next Friday, the 10th. Very exciting. And just on that will be interface up. Will there be a ninja launch? Contract is there. Go figure it out. Or will it be like around the same time?
No, DApp is ready, man. I mean, obviously I got to inject some contract addresses in this and that, but No, it's ready. It'll launch all basically within minutes of each other. So
and there's no reason. I know. I think it's another principle too. There's no reason. There's no advantage in getting in early as far as like minting, right?
They're flat ratios. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like even on the Pulsar side, when we started this, it was 1 ETH for 1 billion Titan X. Now, granted, that may change because, you know, we reflexively have looked at a lot of things at the same time, hence why we're doing it this way. But remember, everything's a flat ratio. And that's so important to understand, which again, you know, if a lot of people don't understand the stuff that I say, it's because I'm speaking in pure game dev speak. Watch Mike Sellers. Some people don't like to watch this stuff. I think it's fascinating. I just found 2 random new videos. But if you take your knowledge outside of it being crypto, magic, funny internet money, and you see where this stuff came from, it's a very different dynamic. That's why people use the term game theory. And, you know, there really is no game devs don't use theory. They use practicality and what's come before and understanding those components. So do some Googling on Mike Sellers' systemic design, and you'll start to see how I'm explaining things because it's been taught for the last 20 years, 30 years. You know, it's the same as Go, checkers, or chess.
Not just ukulele, it's Giff sometimes too. I've had him on the show 20 times talking about Alcosa, and I think maybe the 3rd time he described the waterfall strategy. I was like, oh yeah, I think I got it now. I think maybe one of those things as example.
Put some respect on it, Max. Champagne waterfall. Come on.
Champagne. You had a little image viewer you were sharing at the time. I remember.
Good. Well, I mean, to be fair, Giff's the only one that could really translate me. So I mean, that's why we make such a good team.
No, yeah, you guys are awesome together. Seriously, I'm glad to have you both. And I think, yeah, Kool-Aid, you say a lot of very interesting perspectives of things that I want to have. I want that nuance. I want that. This pieces. What do you say? Giff is more. Oh man. I feel like I listen to you guys talk for hours on the other stream.
I'm spatial. He's surgical.
Yes, that one. Yes, yeah, exactly. I think it works well. Anyways, and then pGiff is live now. The PermaGiff.win that can be minted again. PLS with Giff, mint pGiff, and shoot, what was I going with that? That's something people. Oh yeah. So how can people participate? There's the minting interface. You know, before then, you can use a smart contract to read and write and do all this stuff too. There's LP. Like, how can people? Yeah, let's go down that just real briefly.
One thing here, you can just add the numbers up to see the ARB opportunity right here. Like Giff made it so simple that if you want to like look at the cost, what you'll get back out, the pulse value, and then you can just calculate that to the number that you have if you had to look at it in a particular USD value or all the rest. So there's many different things with this simple little front end that you can get all the stuff that you need to do the ARB in your head, like on the value that you get out of it or the percentage.
Yeah, I've been writing some scripts around it too. I still gotta, I still gotta verify that a little bit. I code every once in a while. I use AI to help me out, but I'm like, is there an alert? Somebody gonna make an alert system for these ARBs, or you know, even make a bot that automatically just provides a Permabull for the Permabull. The continuous, I'm going to do my best Kool-Aid. The continuous flywheel of flaming buys and burns.
That's right.
I don't know. You would say it much better, but that's
I would give, as RG says, a bunch of brilliant nonsense. It's true. But I mean, like when Tetra comes out, that's when I'm really dangerous because I don't need to know how to script at that point. Playing with nodes and crossing wires, I can do that all day long.
So again, just to wrap up, you can mint the stuff with the protocol that's live now. LP, again, unstoppable LP. And it's kind of redundant, but yeah, you can provide LP. People have been doing on V2 and V3. It sounds like the pull's been coming from. And then will there be any? I guess I got to ask this too. I feel like I've heard somebody talk about this before. I don't know if you guys are otherwise. People holding Giff, pGiff, people participating in the protocols and stuff. Is there anything you can tell us about any airdrops or any benefits outside or anything we should not have expectations of as far as, you know, participating in the system or being good stewards or otherwise?
I mean, we really haven't talked about it. I mean, the difference is it kind of goes against no leaky boat at this point for what we're actually doing. Because if you get at the end of the day, the core mechanic that we're trying to do is to not, we're trying to reduce inflation. We're trying to reduce supply. We're trying to take that economic energy and keep combining that coal into into diamonds, right? And so when you're looking at just one side or the other, you know, I guess if you want entertainment, come over to FanForge and look at all the rest of that stuff that, you know, same core team is building over there. There's other ways to get incentive to do things by just holding your tokens. And with this, if you hold a perma token, you're, again, speculation and it's system in testing, you automatically get the incentives of all of it. Now, will other things be binded to PermaGiff tech and Gifford tech in the future? I think so. So that's when we're going to be seeing a lot of different things. But right now, this simulation is about two things on one chain. Then Pulsar brings the economic energy into PulseChain that the two simulations are being run on, and to bind two communities also together. And yeah, I guess the last thing is pay attention where baby Icasas are from, because this whole system is reflexive on top of each other, which is really, really cool to see.
Sounds good to me. I like it. Giff's like, I'm not gonna say a single word. He took the principles approach, and I like it. And as a man who tries to stick by a lot of principles, I can appreciate that too. Like that seems like the correct answer, with some interesting, yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be some fanfare in one way or another, while still keeping the boat not leaky. Maybe some innovative stuff there. We'll see. More protocols that we haven't got to analyze yet too.
I can tell you, Giff and I like to build. That's what I can, like. We love this stuff. We stay up all night doing this stuff. This is what we love.
I love that you two like to build. I think it's a positive feedback loop. I think it could be for the entire ecosystem as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Huh?
Oh, I was saying Crypto Elite just said in here, so you're going to airdrop more Pulse every day that you participate in the system when you ARB it.
Yes, the ARB. Yes, do not forget the ARB. If you don't know what we're talking about when we say the ARB rewind replay game, if you just got here, boy, I think it's a good stream. I liked it myself. Gents, thanks again for joining me. I think I posted, we went over the websites. I put the Telegram in the chat as well. Anything else to tell people where to find more information about the stuff?
He just had to do it.
It's
Leroy.
It's one way of putting it. I think I put everything in the chat.
I would say just coming into the Telegram. It's still a small Telegram. Come say hi. Ask questions, that sort of a thing. You can follow the Twitters if you like. The Telegram's pretty much where you'll find the best dudes.
Yep, just come on in and say hi. We're really friendly.
All right, everyone, that's all we got for you tonight. Scivive and 5555. We are out.